large spoon, a fermentation bucket, which now is being used with an airlock, so we might see a few bubbles during today. A secondary pot for steeping. We're going to need clean potable water, chlorine-free. A simple glass, a coffee cup, a spatula. Sometimes we need a can opener. Sometimes we need a pair of scissors. Today we will need scissors. A clean washcloth, a dish pan, 6 gallons of water, some powdered cleanser, a bimetal thermometer, some measuring cups, and a hydrometer, which we will show you how that works later in the demonstration here. Okay, so when we're talking about home brewing, beer is the most critical part of brewing can be the water. So we recommend chlorine-free water. You can get it at somebody's well water, at a local spring water that's purchased at the store, or reverse osmosis water that can also be purchased at the store. But the key is it's something that you would be willing to drink and is bacteria-free and simple as that. The next step before we start going, because we haven't even started brewing it, is sanitation, which is cleaning. And basically, we clean everything before we use it, and that makes sure our surface is clean of bacteria, dirt, and is free of anything. So what we would do is take a dish pan or a large pot, put 1 gallon of hot water from our tap in our dish pan, take some powdered detergent that is rinse-free. You do not have to rinse it. Take a tablespoon, put it in the container, take our spoon, stir, let it sit for 2 minutes, and then give it another stir. And now we have our cleaning equipment, and we can use a washcloth here. We can clean our spatula. We can clean our glass. And why we clean the glass is we have our hydrometer. We want to clean it, and we want to put it in here so it doesn't roll and fall. We know this is clean and sanitary. This is clean and sanitary. We would clean our thermometer. You can do that like that. We would now clean our bucket using our washcloth. We would clean our spoon. And this, which I'll show you, is our auto siphon. We'll use that later. And we have bottling buckets, and I wanted to show you how to use a bottling bucket because you get it disassembled. So we clean our bucket. We have a gasket here, and a real simple thing is we take and we just press right down like that. Take our washer and nut and attach it that way. Put that over here for now. And I'll demonstrate the auto siphon later in the. So now everything's clean. We've got things in our bucket. Things are clean. We put our dish pan over here so we out of our way. So all our items are clean because we're not worried about infection because this is all that will be post-boil. These will be heated and boiled in here, so we won't have to worry about that. Will disinfect that. So really, brewing, you the home brewer, your job is to make wort. That's spelled W-O-R-T, and the O has an E sound, so it's pronounced wort, a German word. And wort is what your job is to make. You're going to make wort through the process, cool the wort down, and then the yeast will take your wort and make that into beer. So you're just the, as the joke say, the high-priced janitor. And then the fermentation process will take probably 3 to 5 days. We will check it, and then about at the 2-week mark, which I'll explain later, we will then bottle our beer. So now, there's gives it a general overview of home brewing. So let's learn how to home brew. So what we're going to do is prep for the day. We're going to get a kit that has all our ingredients. We're going to collect 6 gallons of water. We're going to put 3 in the fridge so it gets cold, and we do that the night before because it takes that long for this volume or this weight of water to get cold below 40 degrees, and we'll be using that at the end of the process. So we got our water, we have all our equipment clean. We have this, so now the first thing we're going to do is see what's in our kit here. We've got 4 packages of hops. We have our yeast. We have some priming sugar. Some bottle caps. Get that out of our way. This long, big grain bag. We have grains to steep. And we have extract to add to our wort. And then all good ingredient kits have instructions. So basically, the instructions will say 2.5 to 3 gallons of water will be put into a large 20-quart pot because we need to have this much volume so that we don't make a mess in the kitchen. So 3 gallons of water is placed in there. This is a 8-quart pot, and I recommend you have a secondary pot here, and we're going to put 1 gallon of water in here. Gas stoves are very nice. Electric stoves are very nice. The glass or the surface mount stoves that have the glass tops are very challenging, and I don't recommend using them. Use an auxiliary burner for that brewing. So try to use gas or electric. I have my metal thermometer here that sits nice like that, and we're going to heat the water up in this small pot here with a gallon of liquid to about 155 to 160 degrees. While that's heating up, we're going to put 2.5 gallons of water in here and start heating that up. This is to save time, and as this will be our brew kettle, and this is going to be our steep kettle. Once we've reached our temperature, we're paying attention. We shut the heat off. We open up our grain bags. We put it in our grain. We're going to tie a knot. We're going to put it in the pot there and let it steep. Take our thermometer out. We set the timer for 25 minutes. We pay attention to this pot here. It has 2.5 gallons of water. And once this gets to 170, we shut it off. And we're going to let this wait. We'll let this steep for 25 minutes. At the end of 25 minutes, we're going to take our bag of grains and put it in here and use this hot water to rinse the grains. What we've done is created a tea and sugar and flavor and color from the grains that we want to be in here. And this water will be our rinse water. Once we get done rinsing, we take our large spoon and we press against the side. There's no heat at this pot right now, but now and then once we get the grains and all the excess liquid out of here, we're going to throw that away. We're going to take the liquid that was in here, pour that into the pot. We're going to take our lid and leave just a crack here and turn it on. We want to bring this to a boil. While that's heating, I'm going to wash this out real quick. This needs a light cleaning. And I'm going to add enough water so that half the can is submerged in the water. I'm going to heat that up to about 140 degrees. Once that gets up to 140, I'm going to shut it off and just leave it there. This is coming up to a boil. So let's discuss what extract is. A malt company has taken malted barley, malted wheat, malted rye, and have made extract, created its own wort, and then dehydrated it to a certain point. Liquid has about 20% water, and dry malt extract has about 3% water. We have no dry malt extract here to show you today. And that's already wort made by the brew company. We made wort originally here in this pot. Now we have our wort in here. We're going to bring this to a boil. Like all one good recipe, there is what they call a hop schedule, which tells you when to add the hops. Hop schedules work kind of backwards. If they say 60 minutes, that is the beginning of the boil, and so because you're going to be boiling for 60 minutes. This recipe is in here. So at the boil, we follow the instructions here, which is we let it boil for we let it boil for 50 minutes. And we're going to put one package of hops in at the 50-minute mark. And then at the 60-minute mark, we're going to shut it off. So during the 60 minutes, we can carefully, with a washcloth or whatever, turn our hands upside down so that we get our extract nice and soft. During the boil, we've added our hops. We're done. And what we can do is slide that over there. This was hot. This has just been sitting. We take our can, we use our can opener, we open our can and pour it all the way in. Because it's warm, it's going to do a nice job. We know we have a clean spatula. We're going to get as much as we can right there. We have a clean coffee cup. We'll take some wort and fill this can, stir it so we get all the wort out, dump it in, and then we're going to repeat with the second can. So now we have all our wort in here, and our volume should be about 3.5 gallons of liquid. At this point, we're at the end of the boil. We're going to go to the sink here. go to our sink here and close the drain bonnet. We're going to take our pot, put that in there, and turn on the water, and it's going to fill the sink with cold water. We're going to stir. When the water gets up, we're going to shut it off. We're going to pay attention to the temperature of the water in the sink. When it gets hot, we're going to lift this up, drain the water, put the plug back in, and it will take us about 3 tries to get the temperature to below 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So now this is where this thermometer comes in handy once again. We use this to measure the temperature. We have about 3.5 gallons of volume below 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to use our bottling bucket first. We're going to make sure it's in the off position. And you can see the hole facing us here. Take my cooled wort. I dump it into there. I'm going to go to my refrigerator. And take out my refrigerated water, and I'm going to keep filling till I get to the 5-gallon mark right here on my bucket. Now I have 5 gallons of beer wort. What comes with the equipment is this liquid crystal display thermometer. Will tell me the temperature. It needs to be below 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So now we've got 5 gallons of completed beer. This is where the hydrometer comes in handy and well needed. This is the tool that we measure sugar. We put it in here, we read the gravity, which I'll explain in a moment, and this will tell us what our starting or original gravity is. So at this point, we're almost done, but we're not. So we've got our work complete. Our boil's over. We're going to put a nice, pretty dish towel, clean dish towel, and we're going to let it rest for 1 hour. The reason we let it rest is solids are going to drop down to below the spigot, and so that we don't have that into our ferment. You would take your fermentation bucket with the lid off, placed right here at the end of the hour, and you would open up the spigot, and while you're dropping the wort from the spigot into your fermenter, you would cut open your package of yeast and sprinkle it in as it goes in so it can mix. When the liquid gets down to where the spigot is, it'll start stopping. We can take a look, tilt the pail slightly to bring the rest of the liquid, and once we get to the solids, we stop. We just put it back this way, and so everything is done. So after our wort is completed, now we need to understand some brewing science. Sugar that you've put into your wort needs to be measured by a hydrometer. And here you don't need a test jar, but this will explain what's going on. The test jar, or the water, it's water in there. Our hydrometer is reading the specific gravity of 1.00, which is the density of water. With sugar that we've added from the wort, your hydrometer would be somewhere around here, and we would record the reading. And since we've added yeast to the wort, in a period of time, about 4 or 5 days, the yeast will eat the sugars, and the density will be lower because the sugar has been dissipated out, and you've created alcohol. At the 3rd to 5th day, we make sure that we've reached our final gravity. That's after 75% of the sugar, the original gravity, has been consumed. We make sure it's that, then we let it sit for another 3 to 5 days so the foam and everything drops out so we have clear liquid. We have washed our bottling bucket, and what we would do is siphon our beer into the bottling, which I'll show you how that's done shortly. And then we have beer wort in the bottling bucket. Now, the yeast have calmed down because they have no more food to eat. In your kit, we have priming sugar. We're going to dissolve this into about 12 ounces of hot water, and then put that in here and stir that. And now we're going to fill our bottles and cap our bottles so that the yeast can eat the sugar within inside the beer bottle. And when the yeast eat the sugar, it'll create carbonation, or gas for carbonation. And it takes about 3 weeks at room temperature for the beer to carbonate. So, one of the easy things that I'd like to show you is siphoning with an auto siphon. This is so you don't have to suck on the end of the hose. I've got my hose in the pot there. As you can see, the water level's up to here. Bringing it up, and I'm pushing it down. 1. And now my water is going into my pot. And this is how you use an auto siphon to transfer your beer from your fermenter to your bottling bucket. I lift this up, air comes in, all the liquid drains. In basic terms, that is how beer is made, very simply. The major things is the recipe and what temperature you ferment the beer at will give you, affect the flavor and the taste of the beer. Fairly quick and simple, but maybe Jennifer's got some questions from the audience, that I may have skipped and missed. And I'd be glad to answer those questions right now.
Hi, Reed. Sure. So our first question is, Reed, I am planning to make a Bragot. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Okay. How do you say it?
Braggot.
Bragot. Okay. A combination of beer and mead. For the beer component, I will be using dry malt extract, no hops. Does DME need to be boiled or even heated if all I want is to dissolve the extract in water? Or is there a need to boil the extract?
The answer to that question is the Braggot would have some hops in it. So if you were going to have some hops, you would need to bring it to a boil and boil for a while to infuse the hop bitterness into the wort, which would be more likely done, but does not have, if you're not going to use any hops, then the answer to your question is it does not need to be boiled.
Great, thank you. And another question from Bernard. If active fermentation is completed in 4 days to a week, why does it take 3 weeks for the yeast to ferment a smaller amount of sugar that you add to carbonate the beer?
Okay, well, first, the yeast eat the sugar that's inside the beer bottle. Gas is created by like in normal fermentation, and the gas goes to the headspace in the beer bottle here. So at first it's up here, and then over time, the laws of physics, everything equals out. The gas will eventually dissolve back into the beer liquid and carbonate. It takes approximately 2 weeks or so for the beer to dissolve the gas back into the liquid, but the second part is the beer itself is maturing during that 3-week period. So patience will be well rewarded. You definitely need to get the beer gas dissolved in before you serve your beer.
Great. He says thank you. Sue would like to know, where do you purchase a beer kit?
I'm sorry, again. Say that again.
Sue would like to know, where do you purchase a beer kit?
At my store. Thank you.
Great. And Bill asks, when you added the hops, does all the hops go in at once, or does it go in stages?
The recipe will tell you the weight, the actual hop in, and every recipe is a little bit different. Generally, I kind of gloss over it, and I apologize. There's usually a 60-minute addition, or the beginning of the boil, you add 1 hop, and then maybe at the 15-minute or 10-minute mark left in the boil, you'll add another hop addition. And and then near the end of the boil, at the 5 or 2-minute, or when you shut the heat off, you make a third addition to the beer or the wort during the recipe. Every recipe is slightly different. Some beers are bitter, just need some bitterness, so that'll be at the 60-minute addition. And then near the end, if you want a home aroma and flavor, you would near it at the end of the boil, because the heat would, the boil would scrub the flavors out during the boil and just leave the bitterness.
Gotcha. Once the beer is in the bottle, is it refrigerated or left out?
When you mix the sugar and wort mixture and you fill the bottle, it needs to be left at room temperature, because you're letting the yeast work, and the yeast need to work at room temperature, which means anywhere from 62 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit.
Great. And I have a question, Reed.
Yes.
So you started with the beer kit. Are there different varieties of kits, like with different ingredients, or how does that work?
Yes. For beginners, it's coming to the store and getting individual beer ingredient kits for styles that you would like to make. Pilsner is a style kit that we have. Cream ale, an Irish stout, a red ale, an English pale ale, a American IPA, a New England IPA, I'm trying to think of all the different, Oktoberfest, a Scottish ale. Any style that you see that you can purchase at a beverage store, we have the kit for you to make, or we have the ingredients to make that recipe for you, help you, aid you in putting that recipe together and making that beer.
And what's the difference? Like, is it the hops, or what makes one beer different from the other?
Well, the simple answer is the recipe, but first you have, all beer has water, so the water's pretty much at an even point. It's the grains. You have malted barley, and malted barley can be just has your fermentable sugars. Malted barley has been caramelized, and it's called crystal malt, and add sugar and color. There's roasted malts that give it also some color and some depth and flavor. So the grain gives you a background of flavors in it and color. The hops, there's maybe over 100 varieties of hops that are available, and what kind of bitterness they bring, what kind of aromas they bring from the fermentation has an influence. And then fourthly, the yeast. There's several, and once again, 100 or plus different yeast strains, and all these different yeast strains create certain flavors during the fermentation. Some are very neutral, some are very estery forward. There is multitude of factors in making a beer. The Scottish beer became noted because that was a beer that was made in Scotland. The English Pale Ale and the English IPA, how they created based on their brewing culture there in Germany. The Pilsners and the Oktoberfests and the wheat beer and all the other different kinds of beers, the Goza, were all based to regional areas that fit that regional location. So there's a multiple of reasons why you have a certain style.
Interesting. Thank you. And that's all the questions that we have right now. Does anyone else have any other questions they have for Reed?
We'd just like to remind everybody that we have a website called SaratogaZ.com. There lists all our beer ingredient kits. You're more than welcome to visit me at the store. I'm very hands-on in teaching people how to make beer, and we'll get you as geeky as you want or keep it as simple as you want. This is a very fun hobby, and basically there's no reason why you can't make beer at home.
Yeah, and just for our viewers right now too, if you are interested in winemaking too, we did a series with Reed on country winemaking that should be up on our website by the end of this week. All right, so, okay. Bill has another question. He says,
Sure.
If I use fresh hops, do I need to put them in a bag?
Definitely. What the question is, fresh hops is what they call leaf hops. They're fun to use. They're a little messy. You definitely want to put them in a bag, and you also want to assume if they're locally grown, they're not going to be as strong as commercially grown. So the alpha acid will be a little bit lower, and the whole hops absorb more water than pelletized hops. So expect some volume loss when you add your whole hops in.
Great. And just for everybody too, Reed has sent me instructions for the process today. So I'll be sending those out in an email by the end of today so that you'll have those. Yes,
it's a little bit more detailed and a little bit very succinct from beginning to end. And it's definitely very detailed. I'm very pleased the way that paper came out.
Great. And I don't see any other questions in the chat right now. Okay.
Well, Jennifer, ask the crowd after watching the video, how many would think they'll go make beer now?
So you all heard Reed. Do you want to put that in chat? How many do you think you'd like to go ahead and make your own beer? Bernard says, great workshop, thanks. And Bernard says, I do. I do, Reed. I'd like to try it.
All right, great.
I'm more of a stout
Wonderful.
girl. I'll be looking at the stout box.
That's fine. That'd be great.
And she says, I will give it a try. All right. Oh, and Bill says, I will need a refresher. And Sue says, thank you, Reed. Well, and Bill, I can tell you, I met Reed just starting to organize this series of programs, and he is a fantastic teacher. So he will be more than welcome to talk to you if you go to the store and have questions for him.
That's true.
All right, and Reed, can they email you too if they have questions?
Yes. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be shy. Zymurgist, SZYMURGIST @gmail.com. I'm very friendly.
All right. Well, thank you everyone again for joining us this morning.